Jenna Foley. I just finished my third year of chemical engineering at Queen's, and I'm on internship in Calgary, but I was born and raised in Calgary. It's great that students are getting their voices heard, but I think there's maybe other alternative pathways that we could do instead of divestment to kind of push that argument for looking after our climate, whether that's investing in renewables or just encouraging more practice, whether that's changing your lifestyle as well. I think there's just a lot more productive avenues that we could go down as well.
Such a polarizing topic. You're either on one side or the other.
It's like a big movement divestment that you almost don't get the chance to see all sides. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but I kind of get going out east too. Yeah, it's definitely more prevalent there, like the idea of it, and it'd be great to have maybe a bit more perspective from all of the sides. Or jumping to that conclusion that divestment is the only option or the only thing that we should be doing. I think there's definitely some alternatives that we could go forward with, but at the end of the day, I think people also need to understand that not just like energy, but like you said, plastics and products, it's such an important thing in our lifestyle that I think we take for granted, and we're looking for an alternative, but in the meantime, we have to understand that like energy is a necessity, so we can't just shut it off. It's definitely more of a transition, and that's what I find too. People think that we can jump from absolutely having it all to like green end. I think people need to realize how much we consume and how much this energy and these products are kind of a necessity in our lives. I'm more cautious of how much I'm using, and different ways, like even in the sense of like, it sounds simple, but recycling. I know like some students at school don't take it as seriously. It's important to just know that like every small thing affects us. Like we're using all this energy, or if it's turning off the lights, like that's still being as a consumer. So just keeping that mindset on, because I think it's really important if you're advocating for all this change to kind of see how you could also take that into your daily life too. So yeah, I definitely think about it often. Probably should more, to be honest. I think sometimes it slips our mind, and then when we see that post about it like changing the world and stuff, it's great, and then I'm like, but I have kept my lights on all day, like I probably No, I think that's part of like conversation that maybe gets missed, is we don't talk enough about where we're getting it right now, and the difference maybe between getting it from a Canadian source or an external kind of foreign source. Like that might be missed too. It's also important because it's not just an environmental argument, it's an argument for economics, it's an argument for social factors and all those things. So it's such a big part of our economy, our energy and natural resources, that it's something to definitely think about when people talk about divestment, because I don't think you have to think about what you're divesting from. You're divesting from like one of Canada's biggest economic drivers. So being back out here now in Calgary, noticing how it impacts jobs and everything like that, it's definitely something to look at when people talk about divestment.
Is the divestment movement at your school really big?
Yeah, it's actually really big, I'd say, in the last year. Second year, they had a major protest that was surrounding climate change, but it also had divestment on it. So as a student, I was kind of conflicted because it was tied to the global march for climate change, which I could back and I would get behind, but then they also tied in the divestment argument. So I kind of had conflicting opinions with it. But you have this argument for divestment, but then you're driving your car, your home is heated. I know people say this all the time as an example, but it's so important to realize how much we rely on it. Unless you can be self-sustaining without it, you can't just shut it off. I wish that this kind of movement could go towards finding different alternatives, or just improving what we have now, instead of almost shaming the industry and trying to push people against it when it could be a large driver for actual change. it's hard, especially as a young person, right? Because you don't want people to think you're not progressive and with the times and with your friends, but like you're aware of everything. You're aware of climate change. You agree with that it's an issue, but yeah, it's just that factor's hard. But
even the fact that like shareholders have such a large say in companies as well, that I feel like it'd be so much more beneficial to invest in the companies even more, and then you have a say in what the company does. Or
like even I read something like Bill Gates says
divestment
doesn't
financially starve
much, because they'll just get someone else to take its place.
Like if Canada were to go off fossil fuels, well, another country that's like OPEC is just going to take over the whole market share of Canada, and then their economy is going to be even stronger.
Someone will come right in. If it's not our energy we're using, it's going to be someone else's, because we still need it. So
and supporting Canadians is such a like better thing, I think. And like we have like the highest environmental standards, the best like labor rights. There's just so many advantages to purchasing from Canada.
Like supporting us and just having that control, knowing it's coming locally. It's kind of nice to see that at least the conversation is there out east. Like at school it might not be, but at least people are talking about it, and I can get my friends talking about it, and we can have those discussions where it's like really genuine and they're interested in knowing, and I say my 2 cents and then they say their 2 cents, and just nice to see that it's not like shoved under the rug. Like people are talking about it, which is great. So I think it's a good start.
Most people that I've talked to on like these interviews are from out east, and like by the end both of us have been able to be like, I see your side and like you see mine, and we're kind of able to come to like a middle ground. I find it super valuable just to like be able to have a balanced conversation.
Keep the conversation going, especially amongst young people. It's easy to kind of think that it's not our problem, or we're too young to kind of think about it, but it is, and it eventually could be, especially in the future, it could be young people that are dealing more with it as it goes on.